Okay, one of the things that you may be thinking about these experiments is how do we know that people aren't just lying, right? And they don't have to necessarily be lying, right? A similar argument is that they're unintentionally giving you the data that you want, right? And these is what we call in research methods. Once you take that, if you ever take it, it's called demand characteristics. And demand characteristics are basically aspects of the design that make the experimenter, or sorry, make the participant behave in a way that is either consistent or inconsistent with the perceived hypothesis, with the what the participant thinks is the hypothesis. It could be that the relationship between response time and mental scanning distance, it maybe that's just because participants unconsciously use their tacit knowledge to make judgments. You might be thinking, what does that mean? Well, maybe participants thought it should take longer when things are far because, they know how that works in the real world. And even though they're not told to do that necessarily, they might unintentionally do that, right? So participants may create the data that they think the experimenter expects. So it's not necessarily that they're actually mentally traversing or mentally scanning, but they're just taking longer because they think that they ought to. So I have a little demonstration to explain, to sort of flesh out what I mean by that. So imagine if you're an experimenter, right, that looks for the motor, right? Well, the participant might say, well, let's go back. Participant might think, well, looking for the motor, well, motors are closer to steering wheels than anchors. So I'll just wait 5 seconds. And after the 5 seconds are up, they say, oh, I found it, right? Whereas, sorry. And so importantly, though, participants may respond this way because they think that's how long it ought to take to traverse to the motor from the steering wheel rather than actually doing the mental scanning, right? So, in other words, yeah, participants may be unintentionally acting as though they are mentally traversing based on their tacit knowledge of what boats look like, right? Or how boats are assembled, not necessarily how they look, but, sort of the propositions that are associated with a boat. And so, yeah, so this is an example, right? You start at 5 seconds, you wait for 5 seconds because motors are closer to steering wheels and anchors, and then you say, I found it after 5 seconds. Or versus, if I said, look for an anchor, well, I know that motors are closer to steering wheels than anchors, so I'm going to take 10 seconds now, and then I'll say I found it. Um, okay. I'll stop here and then we'll talk about the four dot experiment, which was designed to test this idea without such demand characteristics.